strategy. We're under 100 days to go to the first round of the 2012 presidential election, a campaign which has really only begun to heat up this past week. With us to talk about it is Frederick Winkler, who of the Paris office of J. Walter Thompson. Also with us, Charles G. Navidovich of the ruling UMP party, Ramafal of the leading opposition party, the Socialists, and Warwick Doyle of the American University of Paris. Before the break, we were discussing Nicolas Sarkozy's campaign as it goes from virtual to official. Let's take a look back at his slogan for 2007, Together, Everything Becomes Possible. That was his campaign slogan. Here, Frederick Winkler, let's play a little game here. I'm going to ask you to rate some of these. What do you think of that one, first of all?
Well, that was absolutely right at the time. 5 years ago was a very different time. And in fact, it's what he did going into power, calling in some minister which was from other parties, and he destabilized a lot of the Socialist Party by inviting in some heavy figures from the left wing, and which was at the time very well received, I think, from the population, who saw the energy that he had together with a government which seemed to be much more balanced than what we had before. So it seemed to be less about politics and more about action, which is really, I think, how he wanted to be perceived, All
right, let's look at his rival's slogan for 2012. We don't have Sarkozy's yet. François Hollande, his 2012 slogan, Change is Now. Haven't I heard the word change somewhere before?
You probably have, and you probably will continue to see change. I think what they're probably working on is, if you look at most of the European countries which have had elections after the crisis, have seen a change in government. A lot of people in France, I don't know if they want to see change, but they know that they're moving into a different world, and they want to see a lot of change in behavior. They want to see a lot of change in the way that politics have been managed. Now, is that very new? I'm not working for François Hollande nor the other ones, but there is an idea of now, which is key, which is going to be about getting people involved to vote, getting people involved to, get to his cause. So probably now is more important. In fact, I think now was in bold. I can't remember from what I saw here on the screen, but
you can see it here. Change is now, and you're right. The now is in bold.
The now is really what's important here. Change is you will hear a lot of, but the idea of getting something moving now is going to be key. The difficulty is with everything that's going on, we haven't really seen yet any proposals from any of the parties. Probably because things are moving so fast that you're going to want to wait as much as possible until you say what you're going to be doing now.
All right, a prediction for maybe not the slogan, but at least a word that will figure prominently. What's the word that Nicolas Sarkozy should be putting in bold in his slogan?
Oh God! In 3 seconds, it's impossible. Otherwise, I think you'll
brainstorm this one.
You're going to have a feeling of being, it's the idea of a pilot who's got things in his hands. That's what you're going to get as a feeling, I think, from him. But I'm sure you know better than I do.
What is your prediction?
Something like maybe union and experience for France, with the word France, the word union, and the word experience, so that we can capitalize on the 5 years that we were in power.
Warwick Doyle, your prediction on this?
Well, the problem with Sarkozy is he moved away from the Gaullist tradition. And I think that in France, that's a real problem, that he needs to reassert his authority over France. I think the idea of going back to a sort of French nationalist idea, and the idea that the French system can look after its people, is a serious problem, because what François Hollande is saying, like his letter in Libération, beautifully written letter, is what you're talking about, which is French people are suffering. That you're no longer capable of looking after your people, basically, without really saying how François Hollande is going to do better, in my opinion. And that's his key communication problem, I think. And that's a whole shift. And it's interesting to see that Dominique de Villepin, who really sort of perhaps represents the remnants of the Gaullist tradition in France, has gone out and become another candidate. Bayrou, another candidate, sort of has been talking about that.
These two candidates, right of centre.
Yes, right of the left. I mean, I don't know if François Bayrou is right of centre. He's centre, and de Villepin is right of centre. So we'll see where that could lead. Once the debate happens, this election could go anywhere. That's what I think. The Le Pen card, the Bayrou card, the de Villepin. There's a lot of cards that have. It's very different from previous elections.
All right, and by the way, on the France 24 debate Facebook page, some of you a little bit cheeky, I have to say, when we asked you what you thought the slogan should be. Alexander from Paris said that everything becomes possible once again. Adabong, already 5 years of internship. Sarkozy for president, a bit ironic there. And even more ironic is Robin, who says, come on, it can't be worse next time. All right. Now, the message, getting the message across in a slogan is important. Interesting that what Frédéric picked up on the fact that the word "now" is in bold. Again, what do you think will be the word in bold for the rival candidate here in this instance?
Losing. It's most important thing of what he did during the past years. He makes per day 550 people who lose their jobs. It's what Nicolas Sarkozy gonna let to the people in 2012. And it's not because of the crisis. It is wrong. There is the crisis, it's a fact. But it is his politics who make that people today lose their jobs. It's important, and if you don't look at that, you're going to lose the election, and it's going to be easier for us.
But Waddick Doyle was making the point that what's clear is that the ruling Conservatives are going to harp on about the fact that we've done a lot and the others don't have a plan. And how are you going to counter that message?
But we are going to François Hollande is going to tell about his project on Sunday, this Sunday, 22. And he's going to say what is important for him. He already said that the youth is important because it's the future of the nations, and we have to put a lot of money for the youth people to be able to build the future.
But where are you going to find this money, and which program, which project, which law? You have to be more precise for a program.
But I don't have a lot of time, but I can explain you if you want. It's easy. It's all the presents you make to Madame Betancourt and a lot of people like that. We're gonna give this money to the people who need it. It's easy.
So another good program.
All right.
It's not very complicated.
On this side,
you just say that.
On this side, we're touting experience. On this side, we're going to be touting youth. Let's talk about the way we get the message across, and more specifically about social networking. Now, in 2007, it's got to be said, Nicolas Sarkozy ran a very good campaign on the web. He's got a Facebook page. It's liked by nearly 500,000 fans. France 24's Pâté 2012 blog goes into how he's even filled in all the details on his profile page, including the fact that he's married to Carla Bruni. Barack Obama, just by comparison, and this is perhaps Waddick more reflection on France than on the candidate, he's got 48 million fans, albeit not all of them are Americans, and 24 million, excuse me, I got my number, I doubled the numbers there even, albeit not all of them are Americans, and the U.S. has a population that's 5 times bigger than France. He's a more high-profile job, I suppose, but there's the use of Facebook, and I want to also get you to comment on one more thing when you look at Facebook, and that's Twitter. Obama has one of the most popular Twitter feeds in the world, whereas Nicolas Sarkozy does not tweet. Your thoughts on why Sarkozy doesn't tweet?
Well, in my opinion, I keep harking back to this. The candidate who's going to win, I think that it will come back to a more presidential stature. So I think that François Hollande...
Tweeting is not...
Tweeting, I don't think it's
below
going to be...
the dignity of the office.
That's one thing I'd say. So François Hollande is really taking on Mitterrand-esque gestures, forms, language.
But so is Sarkozy by the fact that he doesn't tweet.
Yeah. And, the problem with tweeting and Facebook is it's fantastic. It helped Obama win an election. It helped create revolutions in the Arab world. The problem is it can cause sudden... It's like the short-term brain. It can cause sudden and sharp effects. It's difficult in continuity. And at this point where France is perhaps in a crisis, it may appear to be too gimmicky. I could be wrong, but that's my view. I don't think either candidate is going to tweet much.
Frederick Winkler, Ramassal was talking about trying to get the youth vote out. How important is social networking and the web going to be in this campaign?
I mean, it's going to be very important. The reality, though, is if you take Twitter, it's much more used as a tool to reinforce people's opinions. It's rarely a tool
You're preaching to the converted.
You're preaching to the converted, which, however, is going to be quite important this time to make sure you keep them. The reality as well is it's, a lot of the candidates are on Twitter, but they don't really tweet themselves. So there is a Sarkozy 2012 tweet account, but a lot of that is done very officially. So what's quite interesting is you're seeing in the politicians, there are people that do it for themselves and do it quite well because it feels very human, which is something that they would all really benefit from, is showing a human side, especially right now. And a lot of it is very impersonal because it's been done by someone else. So, but talking about short-term brands, I think, the good thing about Twitter and Facebook is we're now in a world which is short-term brands. There is no long-term, is just a multitude of short-terms right now. So it's going to be important, I think, but to a proportion of the election only, and really to get people to feel what's human about the person.
And do you get a sense that campaigns are seeing this as a way to keep costs down? Because after all, it's a lot less expensive than going out putting campaign posters everywhere.
It's a lot less expensive and potentially a lot more expensive because you have a lot of, if you get something wrong on social networks, it stays, it's very sticky and it gets amplified. But it's, what's interesting about these tools is not so much what you say, but is the network that you have around you. So what you're seeing, in fact, there was something with Marine Le Pen recently where she really managed quite well and in a quite impressive way to get all of her Twitter people to rally and help her stop some bad noise that was going on around her. So what's going to be quite interesting now is to see how both of the other parties do it. Bayrou is doing it quite well. If you look at, I've pulled out a list of peer index, which is the influence on Twitter of people. What's quite interesting is all of the ministers which were very heavy on peer index have dropped dramatically over the last year. Probably because they've been told get to work rather than tweet. I mean, there's been, as you say, a lot of mention, for example, on Eric Besson that said he's only doing Twitter and not working, which is a little silly, I think, because, I believe that, social networks are work and it's a very good way of keeping your finger on the pulse.
All right, social networks are work. Charles Ivanovich, when you compare this campaign to the one 5 years ago, on that score, how are things different so far? How do you feel it from inside the campaign?
Well, I think the impact of the social network or the internet will be way stronger. We have launched in each of our region, because the UMP party is divided in regions and federation, we have launched a social network formation for our militants. And I think that for Twitter and Facebook, our militants will be the first one to put the word and to communicate. Also, for our ministers and MPs, it's very good to have these Twitters and Facebook because they will be closer to the French population with this message. And there is a true interaction between the politician, left and right, and the population with these Twitter and Facebook messages. There is also the point of the internet. We will use the internet to promote what we have done during these 5 years. So you will be able to connect online, to type the name of your city, and you will see that during these 5 years there have been a new school in your city, that the unemployment rate has risen or has lowered. So you will see what we have done with the internet, and this will be a very good weapon against the Socialist Party.
Ramassal, when you sit down at campaign headquarters for strategy sessions, how big a part of the discussion is all of this?
It's very important about it. Today, François Hollande become the most followed French politic, and it's important for us because people can follow him and see what he's doing all the day. It's not him who tweets every time, but people can say and can follow the campaign, and it's important. But I'm sorry, but we prefer knocking on the door.
Okay, that's interesting. So you still have to go knock on people's doors. François Hollande, I want to get your reaction to this. He's got one image problem of his own that he's going to have to overcome in this campaign. We got an image of him here this week among the hard hats at a steel factory in eastern France. But he's a man who did his graduate studies at one of the most elite institutions of France, the National Administration School, l'ENA. That's the French don't really like, as a general rule, the l'ENA. How's he going to overcome that sort of elitist label that some may stick to him?
But the most important thing is that François Hollande can handle the future of the nation. It's the most important thing. Yes, he did the ENA, but he knows what people are living. He knows that there is some problem here of security, of course, but also on health, with people jobs and with the education and etc. But it's not a problem of being to Vienna. It's the most important thing is that he have a team around him who say him and who conceal him.
All right, so he's being closely advised, you say. Let's listen to François Hollande. He's trying to pitch in his campaign messages a straight talk message. Let's hear what he has to say.
Donc je ne suis pas venu ici.
I didn't come here to make people believe that right after the presidential election, everything will be possible.
Tout sera possible.
I came here to say that every problem will be addressed.
Que tout sera engagé.
Frederick Winkler, how's that message going to play? People like promises, don't they, in a campaign?
They like promises. I think, again, this year is different in that a lot of the candidates are being very wary of promises, knowing that they quickly become attacked from being not possible, and there's a lot of fantasy. I think you said it's
But that's kind
easy.
of boring, isn't it?
It's kind of boring, which is why it's going to get interesting once they get into the real action. You know, this is what we've seen right now is not only just not enough candidates or real candidates, but no programs. So the programs are going to be absolutely key. And I think, you know, you said before it's easy. Again, I'm not working for any parties, but nobody will believe it's easy. So they won't say it's easy, just take here and put there, because that's unbelievable. Big promises are going to be unbelievable. So it's really going to be about a question of how the candidate is felt to be someone I can trust, to tell me something that's real and that's not a lie and that's not over-promising, but still give me something to dream about. Now, what's the something to dream about is going to be quite interesting.
One last sentence, 85% turnout in the first round last time. It was huge. This time around?
I think that's going to be a big issue. And a lot of it's going to depend on the campaign. Because what you have, I think, now is a lot of people who feel that they're not, you know, that they're not really allowed to say something because it's too big for them. You know, the issues are too big for them.
So we may see a lower turnout this time. I want to thank you, Frederick Winkler. I want to thank Charles Ginaminovich. I want to thank Ramas Sall and Waddick Doyle, and you for being with us here in the France 24 debate. Stay with us. Coming up next, it's time for Business. That's hosted by Marcus Carlson.